Well, class, you did it. You farmed up for brand new marquees, gave them all the chirotech they wanted, and all the relic levels that come with that too. Not only did you do all that, but you watched my video because you eventually got stuck on Phase 5 for the Jar Jar event. So with all that said, I would like to say first of all, I'm proud of you. And that's exactly where today's video comes into play, where we are going to break down what to do with Jar Jar, his Omicrons, his mods, his team comps, and everything that comes with that. Joining us once again is our infamous or famous infographic there to the right that I will hopefully remember to take down when there are things that need to be shown on that side of the screen, asking for your patience with that one. The first thing that we want to get to are the Omicrons. I have been getting so many questions about the overall priority of this, and to be frank, it's actually really difficult because as far as overall value goes, they're all at very similar levels. When we compare this to a very recent character that we just got, like Queen Amidala also has 3 Omicrons, except for different than Jar Jar, the difference in overall power levels and value of each of these Omicrons was vastly different. When we look at the Handmaiden unique, it was significant, or rather the Loyal Bodyguard unique, it was significantly better than the other two. Not only do you start with the decoy right out the bat, but you get all these stat boosts as well as certain immunities and a few other things to boot. When you compare that with her leadership that just adds a few generic boosts for specific classes, they're just completely worlds apart, and it was very easy to determine, hey, this one's the 3rd best, this one down here is the 1st best. With Jar Jar, that's not exactly the case. In fact, they're all very closely around the same amount of value. I do believe the best one out of the 3, though, is going to be Mesa, aka the unique. And the reason why is because this seems to have the most amount of longevity when it comes to the character as a whole, because it is not going to provide immunity, but it's going to allow a way to instantly cleanse daze, staggered, and stunned. I'm not really sure what the stagger is doing in there. I realize there's teams that have that and that's relevant, but the amount of characters that exist right now that have like AoE stuns or AoE dazes, it's obnoxious and atrocious. It's one of the reasons why teams like Starkiller and Malicos specifically had to have those immunities to be able to function at a higher level of team that they are. So with that being said, we want to have that for the Gungan team as well, so we're not slowed down by constantly getting stunned or dazed so that we can't be attacking out of turn. This really does take care of that. Now, the second unique we do want to focus on is going to be Big Boomas, aka the Special. And this one, again, has just a little bit of universality to it, if that's even a word, where we are going to be consistently reducing 5% max health and max protection every single time that we're using the special. There's a little bit more to it than that, but that is the big gist of it, because there just almost isn't a team out there where reducing their max health and protection doesn't end up being good for you in the long run. It helps prevent timeouts, or it just helps you whittle down that pesky character that is going to kill you if you don't kill him first. So that's why this one comes in 2nd place. And then 3rd place is going to be I Love You. Actually, Moi Moi, I Love You. And again, this one isn't bad. It's not kind of trash like some of the other Omicrons we've seen before. It's just not as high priority as the other two, but quite frankly, the margin isn't all that big. The big thing that you're getting here is you're getting more plasma shielding per 3 relic levels of Jar Jar. So for a lot of people who can't go all the way to R9, this is going to have slightly less value, but it's also going to help spread around damage immunity and give a small 5% mastery increase every single time the bonus turn through here was triggered. I do like extra mastery, but 5% just seems like a really small amount, especially because you're banking on getting that as the battle goes on, rather than say starting off with 50% like Malicos or another amount from another character that gives a lot of mastery. 5% is just really small, and to get it throughout the battle doesn't seem as relevant as some of the other ones. So as far as overall Omicrons go, that is going to be our order. Again, the disparity between the 3 of them is not that large, but that is the order that I would do them in if I didn't already have all 3 of them immediately applied. Now, I realize a lot of people are also still struggling with Zetas, and his Zetas are pretty good for the most part, and it's going to be a very natural flow from working our way from the bottom all the way to the top in regards to that. When we look at Moi Moi, I Love You as far as Zetas goes, it is going to be the one that's going to constantly let us attack out of turn, or rather calling the other Gungan allies to attack out of turn whenever we blind ourselves, which is where a lot of the Gungan damage comes from. And it's just really nice to have Tarpal's Basic constantly coming out to shock and dispel for us. Mesa Okade is going to be taking the second place. This is the one that gives 1000% evasion to Jar Jar. The reason why this isn't first on the list is because the Gungans, regardless which one, are really hard to kill before you get the shield generator down. So the 1000% evasion is nice, but for the most of the things that the Gungans want to do, I think you're better off going with the other Zeta first and leaving this one for a second. And then last but not least is going to be the special, which really it's just flipping the debuffs from not locked to locked, which is good, but it only does it for one turn. Again, you eventually do one. It's just not quite doing what the other two that are a little bit more core, where Jar Jar essentially becomes invincible and or constantly calling in the rest of his team to assist. So again, not bad by any means, but just not as good as the other two. Now, when it comes to mods, Jar Jar is actually one of the easier characters to mods. I hesitate to say that a little bit because he still wants a gross amount of speed if you can give it to him, but he's pretty forgiving if you can't. Again, there are things like bonus turns that are happening amongst the other Gungans, and at the same time, he isn't really going to be dead because of the 1000% evasion. So what we're going for overall is just speed and potency, and the reason why we're doing those two stats is he just can't really use anything else. As we just saw, the 1000% evasion really removes the necessity to have a gross amount of protection on him. You can still do that, but just doesn't really get you much anywhere. I do have that on the circle. You can do that on the triangle. I did offense. There's no real reason for that. I just like the amount of speed that it had on it being a speed triangle. I do, however, like the potency, as not every single one of his debuffs are irresistible. So for the ones that aren't, it is nice to have a little bit of backup there. So one potency set and the potency primary for the triangle, or for the cross, and then everything else is just generic speed. So again, not exactly atrocious amounts of stat-wise on him for overall protection, a decent amount of speed, and then the convenient potency that you can get through both one set as well as the cross will be nice. Nothing necessarily to break the bank, but something to get him going. Now, before we get into the super easy team comps, let's talk a little bit about the relic levels that he might need. Now, there are going to be a few different ways to look at this, but since I love Jar Jar, I kind of just immediately gave him R9. However, there is some small benefit to that if you have the Omicron that we recommended, or one of the Omicrons we recommended, where he's going to be getting 2 stacks of plasma shielding for every 3 relic level amplifiers, which is going to put Jar Jar in a really weird spot where he actually might benefit for being relic 3, relic 6, or relic 9 if you have that Omicron adding more shields. Now, if you don't really care about that because you don't have the Omicron, R5 is probably a good place to stop. That way you can at least use a random Datacron on the rest of the team, or even a specific one for Jar Jar if he ever gets one again. I'm assuming a lot of people that are doing this don't currently have one from the set right now. But the other thing to consider, and a lot of you have probably already thought of it and already planned for this, but it's the raid. And at that point, you know, whatever relic level you have the rest of your Gungans at to be able to go on the raid is probably what relic level he should be. Whether that be 5, 7, or 8, that is really going to be up to you. Now, as far as team comps go, this is where things get really painfully obvious. I don't know if I should be explaining what the 5v5 comp is. There's really not much variation. You get what you get. Now, for 3v3, the comp is going to be accompanied with Gungan Phalanx and obviously Boss Nass for the leadership. And the reason here is very simple. You don't want the enemy to be able to destroy the shield generator. If you don't have a taunting tank and they can go right for the shield generator, then Jar Jar Binks loses his 1000% evasion and they can kill you and, quite frankly, the rest of the team. So really not a lot of hard logic there. You get to that conclusion pretty darn easily. So now that we know the mods, the relic levels, the Omicrons, the Zetas, the comps and whatnot, the question still remains, what are you supposed to do with Gungans? And I will tell you, and this makes me a little bit sad because I wanted to use them so badly, you stick the dudes on defense because holy crap are they a force to be reckoned with. Now, I know what a lot of you are immediately thinking. Oh, Calvin, you dumb. That's because they have Datacrons that are very good for them right now that are causing a lot of issues. Well, I went into GAC Insight and looked up all the Gungan battles that don't have any of the Datacrons from even that set. So no 15% health and protection boost, no Gungan level 6s, no Boss Nass or Jar Jar level 9s. This is straight up other random Datacrons that are not at all specific to Gungans, and holy crap, do they hold against everything. You can see here, like, we have top of the line teams like Malgus and Traya, General Skywalker, Jedi Master Luke, Bo-Katan. Literally the only ones with halfway decent win rates so far are JMK and Bane, which is a pretty high toll or price to pay for Gungans. Leia also not doing all that well. SLKR with 14%. Again, what are these SLK comps using might also vary. It doesn't look like a lot of them are using the super first order comps, so things are a little bit more even across the board. But still, that is quite ridiculous. And even when we filter this so that only GLs are attacking, the overall win rate doesn't get a lot better. There's still a ton of JMLs, ton of Leias, ton of SLKRs, ton of Jabbas. Leia's, it's holding versus virtually everything except some specific comps of Lord Vader, and then of course it looks like pretty much every single comp of JMK is slaughtering that. So again, this is going to vary on Datacrons, and the more we find out as the future goes, but they are definitely, wherever Galactic Legends are, they're right below that or even mixed in with it if you have all the Omicrons and toys to go with it. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. Be on the lookout out there as well. We are going to be working on getting some content for the raid, more specifically towards Gungans, now that a great number of people love Jar Jar. But until then, thank you for watching, and stay awesome.